have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Fear itself. Fear itself. Fear itself. Where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
My prepper brothers and sisters, you've arrived at the bunker. Grab a cup of joe, a stout tea, or maybe your favorite adult beverage. This is the prepper's place for open discussion on whatever the hell we want. Brought to you whatever the hell way we want. This is the new format of Top's Bunker. So sit down, kick back, post up, relax, and welcome to the bunker.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Military-industrial complex.
And we as a people will get to the promised land.
We will make America strong again, proud again, safe again. We will make America great again.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to Top's Bunker, a podcast for preppers. Leave a voicemail to get on the show, speakpipe.com/tops, or use the live message option on our Facebook group, Top's Bunker. Email us at shtf@topsbunker.com. Visit our site, topsbunker.com. I want to thank y'all for joining us. We got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we'll discuss Jeremy's own personal reality check when he came face-to-face with an incredibly destructive storm named Helene. We'll let Jeremy tell his traumatic story and tell us how prepared he was for this catastrophic event. On September 26th, Hurricane Helene made landfall as a Category 4 storm, unleashing a devastating path of destruction as it moved northward from Florida. The hurricane swept through communities, washing away homes, demolishing roads, and cutting off electricity and cell phone services for millions, plunging many into darkness, confusion, and fear. Helene became the deadliest hurricane to strike the U.S. mainland since Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Approximately half of the casualties were in North Carolina, while dozens more perished in Georgia and South Carolina. The city of Asheville, located in the western mountains of North Carolina, suffered very severe damage. The storm's unprecedented size, combined with its powerful winds and torrential rain, turned Helene into a disaster that extended over 500 miles inland from the Florida coast. Helene flooded towns, destroyed roads and bridges, and swept away homes. There are entire towns that don't exist anymore. Many victims were caught off guard far from the coast as the storm unleashed over 20 inches of rain in mountainous areas, which funneled the water, rapidly transforming streams and rivers into dangerous torrents that engulfed everything in their path. It was a night of terror, a dark reminder of nature's unrelenting destructive power, leaving behind a scarred landscape and a lingering dread that will haunt the survivors long after the winds died down.
So our hearts go out to everybody that's been affected by the storm. So this storm comes up through Florida, hits it, not as bad as they thought it was going to be, but still hits it. Georgia gets slammed, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, parts of Virginia. Asheville got hit really hard, which is in North Carolina. From what I heard, their town is wrecked. I mean, they've got issues, big time issues.
Yeah, Asheville was slammed really, really hard, but pretty much everything, in that general area. There was a massive mudslide in actually the town of Black Mountain, which is exactly where the story of 1 Second After takes place. There was a huge, yes, Black Mountain, Montreat, and some of those other little areas that are all actually written about in the book are now gone. They no longer exist.
And I like Asheville. I've been there plenty of times. I think it's such a cool little town, man. I like it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very much of a hippie scene. But this just it was started out as just a trip that I wanted to take my mom on. We knew that there was a storm coming, but typically when those storms hit, they hit where we are, and then a little bit further east towards the coast. And I was just gonna take her up to see the Biltmore Inn, which is an old historic estate. It's a castle. And the day before, I called them and I said, hey, you guys going to be open? I know the storm's coming. And they said, it's just going to be some rain. We're not closing. So the next day we took off, started heading that direction. About 45 minutes away from the Biltmore, they called with an automated message and said, we're closing until Saturday. So my mom just suggested, okay, well, if we're already up here, we may as well just go on to the hotel, see what we can see, go see Little Switzerland, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Started taking her up, and I was like, Mom, I don't see a lot of people up here. Because normally you see motorcycles, you see people on the lookouts taking pictures and all that kind of stuff. We get up to the hotel area, pass through it, we go into Little Switzerland, and everything is closed. So we went ahead and got to the hotel. I had already paid for it. Checked in, had a good time that night, went to bed, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, that's when everything started happening. The power went out probably right around 2 o'clock, and I was asleep. I sleep like the dead anyways, and when I woke up around 6:15, I noticed that the power was out. I could hear the wind outside. I looked out the window and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess it didn't go east. I went and found my mom. She was dressed and prepared to leave. And I said, Mom, yeah. I looked at her. I was like, Ma, what are you doing? And she said, well, I thought we had to evacuate. All these messages are coming across my phone. I said, Mom, this is a hurricane and we're on a mountain. We're not going anywhere. And so we started walking around, and I met up with the maintenance guy in the hotel and the managers, and then it became an emergency. The wind when it first started was bad enough to start tearing off the roof, and at its worst, where we were sitting next to the eye, probably, I would say 100 mile an hour sustained. And this is a very, very old building. The hotel was built in the late 20s, early 30s, and it was built using moonshine money. It even has a cave next to the restaurant where the guy was cooking moonshine. But we noticed that water was starting to come in certain locations. There were drips here, drips there. We walked down to the restaurant, and then we noticed that there was a literal wall of water coming down the wall. And the outside drains had become clogged, and water was starting to come in through the kitchen and the restaurant. So we started running around outside. We found a bunch of bags of rock salt that they use to defrost stuff, and we started using them like sandbags. So we shored up all the entrances. We started shoring up the kitchen and the restaurant and the entrances, and doing what we could, clearing the vents off outside so that the water would stop at least coming into that particular spot. And then it was containment, an evacuation of the water. We couldn't go anywhere. Nobody was leaving.
So you're talking about floor drains, like the water where it goes down? Right.
Yeah, and a lot of these old buildings, especially up in the mountains, they have these outside drain systems where the water would come down, go into a long system to go down the mountain. And it kind of progressed from there.
All the while, the electric's out, right?
Oh yeah, no power. But the good thing is they had stuff, and that's kind of what I wanted to start with was the what went well. The hotel staff, and they have live-in managers, and they had a live-in maintenance team, and those guys were awesome, man. They rounded all of us up, and they said, "We've never been through this," because these folks were from like Washington State, and so me and a couple of other people had already been through some severe storms like that. And they said, what do we have to do? And so we started kind of going through a prioritization of what had to happen. And the first thing was trying to save the building, which I don't know how well they'll ever recover because that building is so old, but I do have high hopes. And I guess that's kind of where it started with the good stuff. The other thing is they had a lot of tea light candles. They had running water. The guy had run up and he turned on the gravity feed to their well water. So the water was running. It wasn't a very strong flow, and it was very cold, but they did have running water.
So their well must have been higher in elevation if they were.
Yeah.
That was smart to build it that way. Yeah.
And the original well had actually been placed there, and they built these cistern tanks. They were like, I think they said they had a total of like 4,000 gallons available.
Nice.
And they had, I don't know, probably 10 boxes of these little tea light candles, of course, that would be used for, the restaurant and the game room that they had. So we had plenty of candles, we had running water, and once we kind of figured out what the priorities were, all of the guests in the hotel started coming together and pitching in to try to get the priorities of work knocked out that needed to happen. And it was weird being in the position that I was in. I don't know why, but they kept turning to me, and I'm like, dude, I'm just a retired grunt, I know
that's not true. That is not true. You train people. You're a trainer.
I am.
You know how to take charge of a situation.
Well, I didn't really want to, but I did, and that's okay. And
plus, what a great way to show off to mom. Come on.
Oh, right. I mean, but she knew. She knows me. So trust me, she knows me. She looked at me and she's like, "What are you doing, Jer?" And I'm like, "Well, I just want to make sure that we earn our keep and they don't charge us for extra nights." But we all came together and we started making stuff happen. And the hotel did what they could do to take care of us. They had a lot of bottled water, which they had on hand because they put it in the fridges. So all of the rooms that were empty, we started going in and taking the bottled water that was in those fridges out. We started gathering trash cans to start capturing water. We started getting together all of the different supplies that might be needed, and we centralized them in one location.
This is like full-on survival mode, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm going to tell you, it was, and I mean, I've been in a lot of different storms and pretty crazy situations, but when it started happening in a spot where I'm not at home, that's when the reality of it set in. And it was, we kind of made as much of a good time of it as we could. I got my steps in all 3 days we were up there, and I got a good workout in, but the hotel did an amazing job of doing what they could for us. And they also did that for the people that were gathering outside. And what we discovered was when the storms, pretty much had passed, there was still a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain. We looked outside and we noticed that there was this whole crowd of people outside of the hotel. And at first it kind of worried me, and I'm like, all right, I have a gun with me.
Where did they come from?
Everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. It was literally the only spot for about 100 miles, maybe a little more, that had cell signal. So,
because you were up high, so people were trying to get up there to use their cells.
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
so, I mean, everybody from the area to include Tennessee, to include Virginia, to include Georgia and South Carolina, drove to the one spot that they had heard about through broken signal that had cell signal. And that was literally in front of the hotel that we were staying at. So we walked outside and we started looking around to sort of assess, the damage outside. The roadway to Little Switzerland, which is a little touristy spot in North Carolina, was completely blocked. And I would say probably...
Blocked by debris and trees and things like that?
Probably about 15 or 20 trees had ripped out of the ground or broken off and had landed on the road, which subsequently caused a landslide on that side of the mountain, which went down and blocked the only road going south out of that area. So the landslide happened on, the road is 226, but it happened on 226 south with a one-way out south.
So even if you wanted to leave, you weren't going anywhere?
No, not at that time. So we started assessing the damage and asking people, hey, are you okay? Do you need help? What's going on? What are you doing up here? That's when we realized that there was the only spot with actual cell coverage. So when we looked down the road, we saw, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 miles worth of cars and people walking up towards us. And that immediately brought to my mind, we have a security issue. So,
I can hear it in your voice. You're like reliving this as you're talking. I can hear it. You're making me nervous, man.
It was not that I was nervous. It was more like I saw, you hear about desperation in people's faces in the movies. You read about it. You see stuff on the news. But there were whole families with kids walking, and they had that look on their faces. And
man,
I'm like,
what was that like? I mean, that had to have been like right out of an apocalyptic movie.
Well, it was. And it also put me into a mode that I haven't been in since, combat. But I got with the managers and I said, I have a gun with me. I only have 13 rounds. I'm pretty good. Is there anybody else here with any sort of protective measures? And it just so happened that a different guest who had left before the storm accidentally left a pistol under his pillow. So
are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding.
Wow, that's you know what, kids that are listening, that's gun ownership #1 rule broken. Do not do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't leave your guns behind.
I may have done that once before, but long story short, I was the only one with a gun and actually who knew how to use it, and which weirded me out, especially here in North Carolina. But I also had to remember the individuals that I was with. These are folks that never have been around guns. Don't mess with them. The maintenance guy was handy with a gun, but he's also a hunter. And he's of the same mindset as us. Right. But so we started seeing the desperation, and we started getting a count of like, how much water do we have that's bottled water? How much can we sacrifice to give away to some of these folks? So we set up a table. We brought out what we could, was just a couple of cases of water. We had to put a sign out in English and Spanish. And just said, one bottle per person, please save your bottle. We opened up the downstairs restrooms to people because we were realizing that they had been there. Like, they were staying in their cars. And right at the intersection of where the hotel is on 226, it also intersects with the Blue Ridge Parkway. And if people were trying to escape through the Blue Ridge, once the storms or winds or anything in that area gets bad enough, they lock the Blue Ridge down. So the individuals that started driving on the Blue Ridge Parkway got stopped by a gate that was locked, and then they thought they could turn around, and the same thing on the other end, they ran into a gate that was closed and locked.
Where do they think these people were going to go if they lock them down the highways?
I think that they locked them down well before it got super bad. When they came to the realization, I think that they knew that the storm was going to be a holy crap moment. They locked it down. Because my mom and I actually I wanted her to actually see the Blue Ridge as much as we could, but we got to spots that were closed off, and I was like, this is kind of weird. Got to the hotel by a different means, but the people trying to escape in any direction, now they're completely locked down on the Blue Ridge.
So these folks that were in the area, did the hotel allow them to come in and stay there like overnight?
No, that was the one thing that they didn't do, and I don't blame them for it.
No.
Because if they had allowed one family in or one person in, the entire hotel would have been completely inundated, and they don't have a lot of rooms.
Or resources.
Yeah. But what we did was what we could. We gave out some bottled water, and then what the owners did was they put up some signs and said, if you need to get a message out, put your message here, jot it down, put your name, and then they started posting a list of people who were safe on Facebook, onto their Facebook profile for the hotel. They started posting that, and they started doing a live stream where people, if they needed to, could pop on and then say, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, or whomever, I'm okay. The live stream didn't end up working because the signal, the more people that showed up, the less signal that there was available, because the bandwidth just gets eaten up when you start doing that. But the list of names of people that were safe really did, I think, help, some people. And then it was just more and more and more people. And so we got there Thursday night. Friday, all hell was broken loose. Saturday, it was pretty decent. But Saturday was the first time that I think I've ever seen a scene out of The Walking Dead. So,
do tell. I want to hear this.
Oh man. So,
hey Jeremy, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
How many people in the initial, migration that you saw? Are we talking 20s, 30s? Are we talking hundreds?
Hundreds.
Wow.
I would say at the most people I ever saw standing in front of the hotel was probably 150.
Wow, that's a really good question, buddy, because I was thinking it was like 15, 20. Oh my goodness, you're talking hundreds.
Yeah, man.
So
there was not only a line going down 226 of parked cars that were walking up, but the people on the Blue Ridge were walking there as well.
And once they got in front of the hotel, they were just stopping and loitering around, trying to use a phone, trying to get connected.
Yeah, there's a scenic outlook, and that kind of thing. And they I think they all generally respected the boundaries of the hotel. But what we did notice is there was cars that kept trying to come up. And so the hotel had cones available and some of those like road hazard things. We ended up having to walk down the hill to a point, blocking that road completely, and then blocking the road that went to 226 South. So people would stop trying to go down there because there was a landslide and there were trees and there was no way around it. But we got up Saturday morning and I figured out how to make coffee. So I ended up boiling water down in the kitchen. They had coffee makers upstairs. So we would just get some boiling water going, run it through the coffee filter into the pot so we could have coffee. I was standing out there and I looked down the hill and there was this really, really thick fog that had been there all night. And you just see these people literally coming up out of the mist. And they were just wandering, just looking like zombies, carrying they had their cell phone, like in the air trying to get that desperate signal. I mean, there were people that were breaking down crying and
man,
dude, it was crazy. Absolute madness.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing that in my head and just wow, that would be You should get some. You should have got some video of that, man.
I did. I did.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna post everything on the Tops Bunker page.
Oh, nice.
But just the sheer magnitude of what had happened has not happened in the mountains of North Carolina since 1916. And so the maintenance guy, unlike me, the maintenance guy had a transceiver, and we were able to tune into NOAA and some of the emergency services signals and some of the CB signals.
Was that in the form of a handheld, or do you have like a whole system?
Yeah, he had a handheld. I have those licenses, but I couldn't transmit. It was just a receiver. So me and him actually got together and got in my truck. And when we got down to 226A going south, that's when we realized it was completely blocked. You could see people on the other side trying to come north. Turned around, got back up, and then we started venturing out. And I'm going to tell you, man, you see it in the movies, you see it on TV, you see those apocalyptic scenes. That's what it looked like. There was the little town. It was just to the north, called Spruce Pine. And when we got down towards that area, you saw rooftops and water. That's it.
You're talking about the town was underwater?
Yep. There's a large portion of the town underwater, and then there's these little roads that kind of get up there to it. And
I sure hope those people got out.
Well, I think that I'm going to cover that in the aftermath part, but a lot of them I will just say did not. And there were other towns I think that fared even worse. And it's kind of weird when I look back. I have ridden through these areas on the motorcycle dozens and dozens of times. And these are places that we would regularly frequent and we would go to, and it's great. And I saw a video of one of them. It's just this little old a general store. And we would stop in, get homemade ice cream and some snacks, and then we'd keep going, and it's completely gone. It doesn't exist. I have a buddy of mine who was reaching out. His daughter goes to Western Carolina, which is like a university in that general area south of Asheville. The university sits a little bit on the higher ground, and there was a little town down there, and when Lake Lure was getting ready to breach, they started evacuations. But Lake Lure completely breached. Every river, every stream, every tributary, every dam, anything that had a body of water breached. And there were towns that, again, like I said, that no longer exist.
That's insane. As you were talking, I was looking up some of the pictures and stuff online, and I didn't realize till just this second how bad. It looks like just absolute devastation. They're saying that the death toll has already risen past 130.
Yeah.
Which is bad, but that's bad. This is a bad storm that hit us.
Yeah, and I will just say this, and I was going to cover it for my aftermath part, but when my mom and I finally did make it out on Sunday, the maintenance guy I was telling you about, he was able to get his son to come up to not only find a way up, but to come up and drop off some stuff. And on our way home on Sunday, we were listening to a briefing from the governor and the transportation people and all that stuff. And he kept getting asked the same questions, which he was avoiding, but one of them was about the death toll. And on Sunday, he was like, right now, only 11 people that we know of have died. And I looked at my mom and I was like, that seems awfully low. And within a day, it changed. And within a couple of hours, it changed. And I actually don't think that they know, and they won't know, how many people have died until they start clearing away the actual debris and the mud. But out of all of that, the acts of heroism are also pretty amazing.
Thursday, you get to the hotel, and I'll just say this: we recorded an episode. You recorded from the hotel.
Yeah.
And everything was fine, and you knew a storm was coming, and it was, whatever. And then Friday, shit hits the fan. SHTF happens. Power's out. All this is going on. You said Saturday was decent. Now, on Saturday, did you have your power back on?
No. The weather was slightly cooperative. And typically when they have these storms, all of a sudden it's nice and pretty. And then behind that, there will be more rain. And that did happen. But it wasn't a tremendous amount.
Were you guys able to cook food? Did they have gas, or was it all electric?
Yeah, no, their stoves down in the kitchen, because it is a pretty old building, were all on gas. And a lot of the places up in those mountains do have gas appliances. So with the combination of running water and gas appliances, we were able to boil water and cook. And they had to use the food that they had in the restaurant, which was going to spoil if they didn't. I think right towards the end when we were leaving on Sunday, there was starting to show the signs of spoilage. There were a few freezers that they hadn't cracked open that were still frozen, which is what I actually suggested that. And I said, if you know what's in there and it's still frozen, leave it be. So it maintained a frozen temperature pretty well, not 100%, but pretty well. And then the simpler stuff that they could cook in the immediate, like they had some chicken and some, stuff like that. Those got cooked right away. And that dude, man, he made some steak tips that were just, they were good.
So you had a chef on hand.
Well, he wasn't necessarily a chef, but the dude was handy in the kitchen, I'll say that. So we had plenty of food. We had plenty of water. Did not have power, but we did have vehicles that ran. I had a battery bank. One of the guests actually had a Jackery. So between me and him letting people use, the power banks that we had, people were able to keep their stuff charged. We had flashlights. We had the candles. So we made do with what we had. And for us inside of the hotel, it went well enough. But my big concern, of course, by being security with everybody outside, I ended up doing basically just walking the perimeter. In North Carolina, you can open carry, so I made sure I did. So that way people could visually see, please don't come over here. I don't always do that, but in the situation that I deem it necessary, that's what I did. But
I think that was a smart move.
Yeah, nobody came over that didn't have any crazy requests. They didn't, demand. They didn't do any of those things. They didn't try to come in. They asked if they could use the bathroom. I had to ask some families in Spanish, is everybody okay? Do you need water? Do you need a bathroom? Are you able to get a call out? So
you speak fluent. I know you're Hispanic, right? But you speak fluent Spanish.
I would not say that my Spanish is as fluent as when I was a kid, which I'm working on. But I used to speak it fluently as a kid because I had to. But if you don't, it's like a lot of skills. If you don't use it, it goes away.
Right. So your mom speaks fluent.
No. My dad was the Spanish one. My mom is First Nations people and Scotch Irish. So she is white. But
you said she is white.
She is. She looks white, but she is mixed Native American.
Okay. Well, your dad didn't seem to mind.
No. He's just he was one of those short, hairy Puerto Rican dudes.
I'm Italian, by the way. We got a lot of short, hairy people in my family.
Oh yeah. Man, I'll tell you what, it's a weird thing to not grow a chest hair until your late 30s, but you've been able to grow a beard since you were in middle school. That's
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. But the things that I learned for my own self, knowing my mindset, knowing that I normally travel with an excessive amount of stuff. And I thought, okay, we're going to do this quick trip. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And we're going to make it back home. I did not have a lot of stuff. I did not have a go bag. I did not have extra food.
Jeremy, you know better than this.
I know.
Come on, man.
But beyond that, I did not have any communication. I did not have my ham radios. I did not have my CB radios. And my mom is looking at me and she's like, I thought you did a podcast about this whole thing. I said, yes, ma'am. I know.
She called you out on it.
She did in front of everyone. 'Cause she's retired military too. She doesn't play games. I did not have power generation other than, the battery bank that I had. I didn't have extra batteries. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, I'm going to have to tell everyone about this. And it sucks and I'm embarrassed about it, but it is definitely a lesson learned that all of the stuff that we normally preach, make sure if you're going to be away, have these things as a minimum. I did not have those things, which turned into a blessing for me personally because the hotel did. And even though they didn't know how to use a lot of this stuff, I was able to teach them how to use a lot of those different items. So those were a lot of the lessons learned for me. And then the other personal one for me is, like, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in my life. I have seen death, destruction, war, combat, guts and blood, and all that stuff. But certain things that I see that pull at the empathy of me, I have a tendency to react with my face. And when I saw the kids, not in a good way, crying, when I saw moms crying, trying to take care of those kids, when I saw these people who were absolutely desperate, I think it played in my face, and I was trying to keep that under wraps. Didn't always work. There were a lot of hugs. There were a lot of, hey, it's going to be okay. But for a lot of those people, because they did drive up there in a regular vehicle, and some of them had e-vehicles, once they got up there, it was a decision of, do I try to go on or do I wait? And they ran out of gas. So they ran out of gas. They ran out of some of the stuff that they had available in those vehicles. And man, it was absolutely crazy. It was hard to describe, and I'll make sure I post the pictures to kind of put the visual to the words. But if you've ever seen it on a movie or TV, I saw it firsthand for real.
What was their demeanor? Did they look desperate? Did they look lost? What was the?
Yeah, and that's what I was referencing earlier. Trying to when I see these people and it sticks to me. It actually felt a lot like when I have been in combat and I see the people that have been displaced by combat and are desperate to get out, or they've lost loved ones. That's the same exact faces that I saw on these people. And trying to help, but at the same time, make sure that my facial features, my demeanor, my looks didn't change. That was actually very difficult because, well,
you're in charge, and if you're showing signs of being upset or distraught in any kind of a way, you're going to feed that back to them. That's what you're worried about?
Oh, yeah. And the people inside, and I will just say this, not everybody contributed, but most of them did. And the people inside the hotel, we were much better off than the people outside. I'll just say it that way. But I don't like being in a situation like that and not doing something. Like I felt compelled to do something. I couldn't just see myself going and taking a nap and riding the whole thing out. So I felt like I had to do my part.
So you were seeing the better part of people, the better part of humanity, and not necessarily the the survival mode. I want to take care of myself kind of thing.
We didn't see a tremendous amount of absolute madness. Now, with that being said, when we left the hotel to venture out and see what we could see, when we got into some of the small towns, that's when it really hit. You know, there was people out wandering. You're driving down a road, and I have a big truck and I have 4-wheel drive. It wasn't terrible. But you see people that are in, you know, on their front porch that is half hanging off. This is a literal scene. So we're driving down 226A to 19, and there's this little side road. We're driving down it, trying to find a way around some of the worst of the destruction. And there was this lady and her husband. They had to be, I'm thinking, 70s, 80s. They were hanging on their front porch. Their porch was barely attached anymore. And not only was there a tree in the driveway, but the driveway itself was gone. There was like, I don't know, probably a 15 or 20 foot gap where the driveway used to be, and there was water flowing completely through it. And it was caused by the culvert that was underneath that portion of the driveway breaking and giving way. So you had the road, which had a bunch of debris, and then you had this massive gap that they couldn't get out. We pulled over, we checked on them. They were physically okay. I think they may have been drinking. I don't know what they were doing out there, but I mean, this is the Appalachia.
Right.
So
they do what they know.
Yeah, they do. And, you know, we checked on them, see if they were good. They said they were. They said the help was on the way. And, but the weirdest thing was as we're driving, we're looking around, and I'm like, okay, I know from my wife that there are National Guard units somewhere. And we did not see a single truck. We did not see a single cop. We did not see a single, fire engine truck, except for the volunteer firefighter department, because they were all pushed down south to I-40 to take care of the rescue operations that were happening down there. You know, we were trying to pick up on something, any kind of NOAA signal or anything like that. As soon as we left the hotel, zero signal. Absolutely gone. And everywhere that we went and looked and ventured out that day, absolutely no signal whatsoever. So we're getting into towns and we're seeing this damage and people wandering.
When you say we, who are you talking about?
It was actually the maintenance guy from the hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a local. He's from that area. And he also wanted to go to, see if his family was okay. But his sons and they were in a different area near Charlotte for work. So they were good. Charlotte did not get hit that bad. But everything west of Charlotte got just absolutely smashed. And then, I'm realizing that everybody's efforts were pushed down into the highway. And at first I was kind of mad about that. But then I thought, okay, we're talking about a major interstate. That portions of it are absolutely actually gone. Like I-40, major parts of it gone, completely taken away. So I kind of understood. And then there got to a point where we could no longer go. And that was, that was Saturday. So we went ahead and came on back. We did find like a gas station that was open, cash only, and they were running off of a backup generator. They didn't have water, but they had snacks and energy drinks and smokes, and that was it. But that was the other thing that I didn't have with me was cash. So we went on back to the hotel, reported what we had found, and then kind of set back into the priorities of work for that day. The next day, which was Sunday, I got up really, really early to go see if any of the roads had opened back up. And that's when that same gentleman's son had made it in. So he basically just drew up the reverse route going back the way that his son made it in. And that's how me and Mom got out. It took quite a long time, but we did make it out.
So reality check. I mean,
Oh, dude.
Can you reality check yourself on this?
Hardcore. One major reality is that I will never make those mistakes again. Oddly enough, when you start thinking about the different things that you need for survival, I actually did have a tent with me in the back of my truck that I just hadn't taken out since my last contract. We did have, if we had to, a way to sleep. But then I start thinking about that tent and the winds that we had. I don't know if it would have survived, but it was a possibility of something. We did have plenty of clothes with us, but the reality of it is there were a lot of mistakes that I made myself, and the reality of the absolute desperation of people when they don't think it's going to happen to them and it happens. People never think about the fact that there is a tornado in North Carolina and it's going to hit the mountains. They hit the eastern side all the time. That's a thing. It's known. We've always known it. But the last time that kind of thing happened was back in 1916. So people thought, you know what, that's never going to happen again. And they had that mentality. And all of the different little towns around that area had that mentality, to include Asheville, Montreat, Black Mountain, all of those areas. And then it happened. So I think the reality is that you can think forever and ever, it's not going to happen to me. It's not a matter of if. I have determined it's a matter of when. It's the one thing that you think is not going to happen is going to happen. There's always a possibility.
Yeah, and don't sell yourself short either on this, because you might not have brought your bug out bags. That's a big no-no, slap your hand. But you brought your skills. And there's a lot of people listening right now, which is why we have a podcast. A lot of people listening that forget that it's not just about the preps. It's about your skills. And those skills are learned, and they need to be practiced. They're perishable skills.
Yeah. In this particular situation, skill and effort were worth more than supplies and stuff and gear.
Right, because you had the hotel, you had a place to stay, you had water, you had bathrooms, you had food, you had companionship, but your skills were what made all of that last and helped other people.
Yeah. I mean, and it was a blessing to have my mom with me. She keeps my brain in check sometimes, because I can go from zero to all in a matter of moments. And she helped out, and she's also retired military, Vietnam era. She retired in 1990. It was a lot of fun having her there. As a matter of fact, on Sunday morning, they had been cooking, but they had not washed the dishes. And there was this thought of they didn't know how to wash the dishes because, it's just this cold gravity water coming from the well. And I was like, well, you guys can boil water. So we put on 6 large pots of water, sanitized the sinks, clustered up all the dishes that needed to be washed in one spot. And we started dumping hot water into one sink with some dish soap, made a rinse station, and then made another rinse station with the restaurant. It's like you actually dip the clean dish into it, and it sanitizes it, and you let it air dry. So we washed probably a whole restaurant's worth of cooking material and utensils. And, it took us a couple hours. But we just had pot after pot after pot of, water going. And we got it done. It was myself, my mom, the guy who had the jackery with him, and a guy who was actually from Macedonia. But we made it fun. And if we didn't have the ability to make it fun, it probably would have made the whole situation a lot crappier.
So the hotel didn't have a full staff on then? They didn't have a full cleaning staff or kitchen staff and all that?
Nope. No, the cleaning staff that was there, they were there for Thursday and Friday, and I think that by Saturday they had enough and they left. So they had the maintenance folks that were live-in, and then they had the managers that were live-in. But everybody else, I think when they saw that the storm was going to hit hard, they all took off to go take care of their own homes, which I don't blame them for.
No, they had their own people to take care of, and that's perfectly acceptable. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and the restaurant manager, she did come up and to assess some of the damage. And she looked, oh my gosh, man, she looks so distraught. And it's not just the physical damage. It's the thought that, this restaurant had a significant amount of food to serve customers. And this is actually their busiest time of the year because people come from all around to drive the Blue Ridge Parkway and see the changing of the colors of the leaves. This is literally their peak season. And you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars worth of food that if it doesn't get used, it's going to spoil. And you see that also, that reality set in. This is a business, and their ability to maintain that business because of that storm is probably significantly diminished.
And not to get too personal, but they charge you for the extra days.
And I did check, I'm just that kind of guy. They did, of course, charge us when they had power that first night. And when it actually wasn't even discussed. It wasn't discussed of whether or not they were gonna, charge us for that, maybe the food or whatever that we consumed. That was never a discussion. It was, and this is what one of the managers said. He's like, I've never had to deal with this, but I do know that I've got 12 guests that I'm responsible for. So I'm going to be responsible and take care of those people.
That's right. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, that's exactly the way you should think. Now, they're not the owners. The owner, is in a different location at the time. I'm sure he's probably like smacking his head like, how do I recover from this? That's on the business end that I'm not involved with. But I think that the people that were there to experience that hotel taking care of them is going to be a lasting memory. And that's actually one of the reasons I'm putting together a package to head back up there in a couple days with supplies and stuff. And I'm going to head back up there with a crew, and we're going to go help them out.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, first of all, A, where are you getting the crew? B, where are you getting the supplies? How are you affording that?
Some of it's going to be from me, but I already have people who are donating money directly to me in order to purchase the supplies. And it's going to be your staples, your water, non-perishable food, feminine hygiene products, personal hygiene products like toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorants, things like that. I'm loading up all of my own preps to include trauma, medical, commo, and those kinds of things. And the people around me, I mean, we're a military community, and I already have people who want to go with. And the motorcycle association that I ride with, we actually have members that are out there in that area trapped as well. So there are a couple of other people who are doing exactly what I'm doing in different locations. They're gonna go and help those members get out, and then make sure that they have the supplies that they need. I don't have to do it, but for some reason, because of how well they took care of us, I feel compelled to do it. And that compulsion comes from seeing the people in front of the hotel that were absolutely desperate.
No, you don't have to do it. And I know, Buddy, you're working on something that you wanted to plug as well for getting help out there. Did you want to talk about that now?
Yes, I'm loosely affiliated with a group called Grindstone Ministries, and they're set up already in operations in Eastern Tennessee, and they have a place set up in Jonesboro, Tennessee, where they're actually they set up a FOB, a forward operating base, for their rescue and recovery operations, and they're there for the long haul. These guys, they're not going to be there for 2 weeks and then pop smoke. They'll be there until the work is done. You can find them on their website at grindstoneministries.com. That's grindstoneministries.com. And if you wanted to send, there's a whole list of things they need. If you get on their website and you want to donate some supplies, they have a large list on there of things you can donate. Also, if you feel like, hey, I want to do more than donate, I'm pretty sure they'll take some money, because there's a lot of things they have to buy, like, chainsaw blades, diesel, gasoline, DEF, things like that. Also, if you feel like you want to go, go hands on and boots on the ground, they'll actually they'd love to see you there. They need support, in all facets of this whole operation. If you feel like you want to send them a case of water or let's say some hand sanitizer, toilet papers, anything off their list, you can send it to, and I'll give you this a couple times so you can write it down. But the address where you can send it directly to is 104 Cherry Grove Road. That's 104 Cherry Grove Road, Jonesboro, Tennessee. And the zip there is 37659.
And this is a reputable company that you're talking about, well known, and they've been doing this for a long, long time, right?
Yes, and I believe they have 465 different deployments too, mostly tornadoes, hurricanes. It's not a fly-by-night thing. It's not something that they're going to be there 2 weeks and then take some FEMA money and jump out. These guys are they're serious about what they do. They do this and do it well.
Do they help in rebuilding as well?
They don't help in rebuilding. They'll clear things.
Okay, gotcha.
They have bucket brigades. They'll have their chainsaws going. Skid steers, a lot of skid steers out there. They're looking for people, in a lot of different facets. And they have an operations order on their webpage that I gave you, grindstoneministries.com. You can go in there and look at their op order, and you can see what they're looking for as far as personnel and equipment. And as far as donations too. So
outstanding.
If you can help them out, please help them out. That's a way, that you can help out. Anything helps. I've done in my past, I've done lots of rescue and recovery for tornadoes, the Murrah building bombing, different types of situations like this. The very worst thing you can do is become part of the problem by going there and going there to be a tourist or a spectator. You just being there, driving through all of the rubble and just being there in the way is going to hurt more than anything. So a lot of people, they want to, go see, devastation and stuff. With social media, you don't really have to be boots on ground to see this stuff now. But, I would stay away unless you're in a capacity where you can really help.
Yeah. When Katrina hit years ago, a group of us in Texas that were in the construction industry, we actually called down and spoke to some folks down there and offered our services to come down and help. And they told us not to come. And they said, we appreciate your offer and what you're offering, but there's too many people at this point, and if you come here, it's just going to make things worse.
Mm-hmm.
They literally said, just stay where you're at and send us money if you can.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's one of the reasons why a lot of the airspace in that location is being restricted now, to make sure that National Guard assets have their way in with the aircraft that they're using. And, I-40 is going to be cut off for a long time. Before we left, I had heard that they were going to try to have at least internet up by October 11th, but power to that area, from what I saw, I don't see it happening before 6 months.
I'm hearing that Elon Musk is going to bring in some Starlink for that area. So they're at least for the first responders to communicate with, because there's limited, a lot of the cell towers are out. I'm hearing reports, and there's limited communication. So
yeah, we watched them fall. I could actually see the cell towers that were sitting on top of, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the ridge line, but there was a cell tower that we actually saw come down. And I thought, you know what? At least we still have the ham repeaters out there. And one by one, the ham repeaters started popping offline. And, when we were finally able to get NOAA back on that transceiver, it was coming from South Carolina. And it said, this transceiver's down, this transceiver's down, this transceiver's down.
So the repeaters, are they actual towers as well?
The repeaters for most ham and for the NOAA stations, a lot of people run repeaters individually when they get to that licensing stage. And what it is just, it's a signal repetition that goes from one tower to the next tower to the next tower that allows for, continuity. So, like if you turn on NOAA right now, for instance, on 172.475, that one fell offline, I would say almost immediately. And then one after another, because a lot of those repeaters, if they were on top of the hills, got blown away. If they were individuals that had them at their houses, they got, blown away.
Well, sure, and the people that have them personally at their houses with their own antenna and stuff, they have to have power in order to run those systems.
Yeah.
And that's what I was wondering about. Trump brought in, worked with Elon Musk to bring in Starlink, and brought in truckloads of stuff. And he also said they were bringing in generators, because I'm assuming that even without, Starlink's going to need power as well. If they don't have power, Starlink's not going to work.
Yeah, you definitely need power for Starlink. I've got to mess with it a little bit. And yeah, you definitely need power. And the repeater stations, cell phone towers need power as well. So.
Right. And I'm on Starlink right now. That's what I use out here in the woods. We can't get anybody else. And our Starlink is awesome. I mean, I'm telling you right now, we rarely ever, the storm has to be really bad for us to lose signal. And it's really only for about 10, 15 minutes. It's not bad, but we do need electricity. So when the electricity goes out here, and it has happened, we spoke about it before, I use my solar generator, always fully charged, and I just hooked up the Starlink to it, and we were able to work just as normal. It was like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it's some good stuff.
So, Jeremy, do you have a way to take us out of this disaster?
Well, I will say this, and we have listeners all around the world, and people always come together, but I think that here in the United States, one thing that we will always do when the times get super duper weird is we all come together. And I think the best thing to come out of all of this is that there's a huge amount of people coming together, private entities, and I think even more so than federal and state government assets. They're coming together in droves. And I think that these horrible, incidences bring out actually the best in a lot of people. The worst in some, there was looting. There was the theft of gasoline and breaking into stores that were, shut down. There was that. But beyond all of that, it really does provide the means, for lack of a better phrase, to, really come together as a community. And I think that that's the best thing to come out of all of it. And whenever you travel, man, make sure that if it looks weird on the radar that you're looking on your weather app, it's probably going to be weird, even if it doesn't get weird. Always have your stuff. Always, no matter what.
Buddy, do you have anything that you want to end with?
Oh, yes. You need to always expect to self-recover. Nobody's coming to save you. You know what I mean? You need to be able to have that ability and not just stuff. That big bag of shit you have, you call a bug out bag, that you've got 18 ways of starting a fire. Well, you need to know how to use it. And you need to totally expect not to, have somebody save you. And if you're waiting around for somebody to save you, you're wrong. You got to be able to do it yourself. So go out there and get that training. Get the training you need. Find out what you're weak at and humble yourself and go get the training. Yeah, I do it. Every month. I'm taking some kind of training, sometimes twice a month, doing something to, improve my situation. You got to improve your foxhole at all times. So go out there and get the training and give yourself a chance to survive,
And I'll also add one last thing. Make sure that your physicality, your physical fitness, and the ability to actually do the things that you think may happen, make sure that you can actually do those things. Hauling 60-pound bags of rock salt to use as sandbags sucked, like super bad. And it was up and down a hill, and it was inside of a big building. And doing those things, man, it broke me off a little bit, but I have the physicality to be able to do that. And when I finally did get done and we came in, we're sopping wet, and freezing cold, I got leaves and bugs and stuff stuck to my face. My mom was like, "Did you really have to do that? Or could you have just waited a little bit?" And I said, "Mom, we're going to be underwater soon." She's like, "Yeah, okay, all right."
Does your mom listen to the show?
She actually listened while we were driving home. I actually let her listen to the one episode we were talking about the most redneck and his baby. She chuckled, but she did get to hear it, and she's like, "Wow, maybe I should start doing some of this stuff." Because years ago, San Antonio flooded super bad after a storm went through there, and it hardly ever does that in her area. But she got flooded. She had to get up to the second floor of her house that she was in at the time. I was in El Paso, Texas at that time, and I'm freaked out. I'm about to start driving, and my wife was like, "Calm down. If you go, you're probably going to make it worse." And I said, "Okay, what can I do?" So I got on social media and I reached out to an old infantry brigade of mine and to the Combat Vets Motorcycle Association. And I said, "Here's the situation. My mom is stuck. I need people to go rescue her and her animals and my son. Please go get them out." And within an hour, there was about 20 trucks and a couple of Jeeps that went through the water and they got my mom out. And then within a few days, they all got back together and moved her into a completely new house. There are people out there who are willing to do the right thing and the great thing. And, again, community coming together is really big. You cannot do this alone.
My Prepper brothers and sisters, it's important that you're prepared at all times for anything and everything. This is why we do this show. This is why we call ourselves preppers. Don't let yourself be unprepared. Don't let your guard down. Make sure that you've done the work and remain vigilant in your preps and your training. Stay prepped, stay happy. Thanks for listening, and good night.